here. I am so excited about
Hey y'all, hey y'all.
enough conversations. All right, so let's see. I'm about to invite our special guest on our IG side while y'all hang on 1 second. All right, I'm going to introduce our guest while y'all come in. I'm so excited that y'all have joined me on this live at 5. Live at 5. Live at 5. Good.
Okay. I'm saying, how do I get rid of this echo?
It's not
I think I may have gotten rid of it.
live at 5. We are having You Are Enough conversations because I want you to know you are enough. No matter what phase of life you find yourself in, what season of life you find yourself in right now, while you are consuming this content, you are enough. You may not feel like enough. You may not always sense your enoughness, but you have everything within you to face your now and your next. And so, this is a series that encourages each one of us. I am super excited to have our guest with us today for this enough conversation. She is none other than Tori S. Dixon. She is a life strategist. She is a life coach, and she is a licensed professional counselor and therapist, and so much more. I'm going to let her tell you the rest. But we know her right now as your starting over coach. And so let's welcome her wherever you are live from. It's a family affair. Welcome, Tori. I'm so glad you are here for our You Are Enough conversation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tara. I am so excited to be here with you.
Okay, wait. We have an echo issue going on. Let's see.
Okay,
We need to
let's see.
have what's my is your phone turned down?
hmm
Your phone is turned down. Your
Let's
microphone is
see.
up on the Facebook.
Is that better?
Yes, yes, we're good. All right. I don't want anybody to miss a moment of your powerful words. What's up, Tori?
Listen, what's up, Dr. T? How are you doing?
Good. I'm so excited to see you, to have you here. You know, we spoke together with our friend Stephanie Carter. Shout out to Stephanie Carter in Concord in
Stephanie.
Dallas. And
Yeah.
you know, when you meet someone and immediately you feel like, oh, we're friends. Like it was an immediate connection,
Yeah.
no awkward in between moment. Instantly, I was excited about the work you do. And I know that the words you share is going to feed the enoughness of the people who are watching with us right now. So, to familiarize everyone with your background, which I love your gift mix so much. I've never met anyone with the gift mix you have exactly. But can you share your background as far as where you're from and some of your other training that I did not mention and how that merges into the work that you do now?
Absolutely. So, Dr. Tara, again, thank you so much for having me. Again, big shout out to Lady Stephanie Carter down at Concord Church here in Dallas. Listen, I love her so much, and she has just been so influential in paving the way in some of the things that God is having me to do in my life as I'm moving forward. So, we'll talk a little bit about that. But I am originally a New York born girl. I was born in the Bronx, but I was actually raised in the South. So, I was raised in Charleston, South Carolina, and Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's where I went to college and completed my undergraduate degree at the University of Oklahoma. And then I went on to go to mortuary school. I left college and I moved to Atlanta, Georgia. I know you have some Atlanta roots with Clark Atlanta. So I moved to Atlanta, Georgia right after I got out of college. And I actually went to Gupton Jones College of Funeral Service. And I have been a licensed funeral director and embalmer for the last 17 years. February made 17 years. And so it was in that space that I really realized that we needed to bridge the gap, particularly with grief and loss, between what was happening at the funeral home and what was happening after we had terminated our services at the grave. And while so many funeral homes had aftercare programs where we would call families and we would check in on them, I saw that there was just a huge gap in what was happening with families after they left our services, and we were not able to connect them to services in terms of counseling and grief services. So that's one reason that led me here. The second was after 9 months of me living in Georgia, I got a phone call from my mom back at home that something was wrong with my sister. And we did not know what was going on with her, but she ended up being hospitalized for about 2 months. And then she was eventually diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, which we did not know was actually something on her dad's side. And so between those two things, I feel like the Lord just then opened a door for me to start my search for mental health and mental wellness. We needed answers. And so we were church going folks. We loved the Lord. We were saved, sanctified, Holy Ghost filled, fire baptized, got Jesus on our side and was running for our lives. And my sister still got sick. And the first thing that happened when she got sick was it must have been demonic. She must have done something wrong. There was some sort of evil spirit. But what we did not know that was locked in the bowels of her DNA was a family history of mental health and mental health trauma. And so we needed answers. And so my mother couldn't go back to school at the time. And so I said, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and get my master's degree in mental health counseling because I want to be able to be an advocate for her. I want to be able to speak for her. I wanted us as a family to have language. I didn't want us to go down this journey with her seeming like we were faith failures. And so sometimes when we have mental health spaces and mental health episodes, we sometimes feel like we have found ourselves in the classroom of faith failing. And so I needed us to know that there was more to what was going on in our faith, though it was going to be necessary in us walking through this journey, that it was not a lack of faith that created this space for us. And so I went back to school, got my master's degree, and now I am a licensed professional counselor and a mortician. And I get the opportunity to bridge two seemingly very different professional careers into this one space where not only we are providing comfort, but we are also providing help for those who find themselves grieving after such difficult loss and tragedy. And so that's what got me here. And now I'm the CEO of Graceful Journey Counseling Services that's located here in Dallas, Texas. And I have a virtual office out in Georgia, and I'm life coaching as well. So we'll get into that a little bit, but that's how I got here.
I love that you used what could seem like a problem
Oh, yeah.
and allowed that to be an opportunity, not an obstacle,
Yeah.
for what God could use you to do next. A lot of people would have seen all of that as a wall, but you hurdled that and utilized that for something bigger, better, purposeful. And so I love that about your journey. Can you go back to that term that you said, faith failures? Because I feel like so many people feel exactly that way when life happens, right?
Mhm.
All of us have heard this term, life be life, right?
Life in.
And life happens.
Yeah.
But what about that person who feels like the life that's happening to them is a direct result of them being a faith failure? Like, what did I miss? Why is it that this is happening to me? And you just broke it down that it was scientific, it wasn't
Yeah.
spiritual.
Yeah.
Can you lean into that a little more? Because I meet a lot of people who feel like it is a failure of faith when life happens.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I think the one thing we forget about life is that even in the word of God, it says that man born of a woman are a few days and it's full of trouble. So if you think you are in life and life is not going to happen to you, then I need you in many ways. Hopefully, this conversation will shake you out of maybe a stupor in thinking that my life has to be perfect or anybody's life is perfect. It's just not. So, what we have to know is that life will happen to us. Things will happen to us because we are in this world, because the world sometimes may be a little bit even in us. Life happens. things happen. And what you have to do is you have to give yourself permission as a human being having a very life experience that everything is not connected to a faith failure. Certainly, there are some times when our faith is tested and our faith is tried, and that measure of faith is put up against the vicissitudes of life. Certainly. But those are not faith failures. And I think that oftentimes, because we run into trials and because we run into tests and tribulations, we attribute that to some sort of leak in the building or in the house of our faith, and it really is not. It is just life happening. It is just the fact that things will happen to all of us. And the only time your faith fails is when you leave it on the sideline of the game that you are playing in life. If you sit your faith on the sideline, if you put it on the bench, if you don't give it a jersey and let it get in the game and hand it the ball, then yes, your faith will fail you. Your faith will fail you if you do not activate it, if you do not put it into motion, if you do not give it a job, if you don't give it something to do except to be dormant and just have it, certainly it will fail. However, the minute you activate that small thing, it's a mustard seed, it's a small thing, your small faith, no matter where it is, I guarantee you that your faith will always propel you into a winning situation. Your faith is not a failure. And when you dealing with emotional spaces and mental health spaces or financial spaces, your faith is not failing. What's happening is that you are experiencing life. You are doing what life does. And now, in order for you to be able to be victorious in these life situations, you've got to give your faith a job. You've got to give your faith a position. And the old folk used to say, you should stand on it. That's your rock. So give your faith something to do. Give your faith a jersey, put it in position, let it do something for you. And I promise you, it won't fail you.
Ooh, that is powerful. I don't know where you are watching this right now, but I hope you can take notes or go back and write this down. Give your faith a jersey.
Yeah.
Give it a position. Give it something to do. Activate it because that is necessary. We know the word of God says without faith, it is impossible to please God.
Yeah.
And as I connect your story with knowing that you're enough, and the enoughness, it wasn't that you saw a challenge and figured out that you by yourself was enough to conquer or to combat or to face all of the challenges that came with life and your family. But you knew that you were enough to take the next step and equip yourself, educate yourself, go through learning again, go through starting over again, go through being a newbie at something again. And I feel like there are some of us who feel like maybe we're not enough in a certain situation, circumstance, and we just take that as what we're conceding to, like, and your life is not over. You are not too old. You are not too young. You are not too tired to start a new learning journey. And so I'm excited that people are hearing your story because they can not only know that they're enough for that life that's happening, but also you're enough to start over on a new journey, no matter what season of life or how old you are in this moment. You can start a new educational journey. You can start a new journey to learning a new field. And also through your journey, what inspires me is that you didn't lay down one career to pick up another. There was some intersectionality, there's an interdependence of both dealing with death and dealing with life. Have you ever encountered people who are around you that are like, you're doing too much? Pick one. You're too busy. Where's your focus? Because there are some people who are called to do one thing, equipped to do one thing, but then there are other people that are multifaceted, multi-hyphenate, that are enough to do more than one thing. simultaneously. Have you dealt with any of that?
Absolutely. I think when I went to go see Michelle Obama back in 2018, she came to Dallas at the American Airlines Arena, and I sat in that arena and I listened to her, and she said something that was so profound. She said, "You can have it all, but maybe not all at the same time." And I think sometimes we think that in order for us to have it all, that we have to have it all at the same time. We have to have it all right now. And sometimes the fullness of who we are is almost like an onion. It develops over time. When you cut an onion in half and you look at it, you can tell just from the developmental process that something, one layer happens, and then the next layer happens, and then the next layer happens. So I think we have to give ourselves permission to develop, time to grow into. What you see today is a compilation of an undergraduate degree that had absolutely nothing to do with funeral service or counseling.
Louder for the people in the back.
Listen, I went to undergrad and what I was doing had nothing to do with anything that I am doing now. But what it did was it laid the foundation for me to take the next step into the next thing, right? And so here I am going to mortuary school after I already have a degree, and I'm going to get an associate's degree. Everybody knows that an associate's degree is supposed to come before a bachelor's degree. So I remember talking to the Lord. I was like, look, if you wanted me to be a mortician, you could have said this in high school, and then I could have skipped the whole 4-year degree thing, and I could have just went straight to mortuary school 2 years. I would have been out, and it would have been a done deal. But then a master's degree, I would not have been able to do that unless I had had a bachelor's degree. So God had to remind me. He said, listen, you may not know everything that I have planned or exactly the way things are spread out, but I promise you that if you just do what I'm calling you to do, nothing in your life will go wasted. He is the master recycler. From the time he said in the beginning, and he created the heavens and the earth, and he put water and land and sea, he never spoke another word of creation again. But what he did was is he threw us into a system of recycling. So now the trees give us the oxygen, and we give the trees the carbon dioxide, and it puts it into the soil along with the nitrogen so that the plants can come up. And again, the plants then start giving us things, and then within a plant, he put a plant. So every time we plant a plant, we have a plant. So God never created nothing new again. Why? Because he has a master's in recycling. He recycles things. He makes sure that he puts you in a cycle that every time you do one thing, it's just fitting you for another phase of the cycle. But you can't get weary as the cycle is moving along, or you're going to miss something. God doesn't have to create anything else. He never said, let there be more water, let there be more air. No, but he gave us systems, and he put us in the best system so that everything can feed off of itself. Nothing is independent of us. We're not independent of animals. Animals are not independent of us. The environment is not independent of us. We are not independent of it. But if you just stay the course, you will realize that God will take something from your past and he will propel it into the purpose for your future. You just have to stay within the cycle. Stick with the cycle.
I love that nothing in your life is wasted.
Nothing.
And I feel like there's so much pressure on our young adults, on our teenagers to know every single thing that you are going to do right now. None of us know. We still don't know at this age everything that God is going to use us to do.
Dr. Tara, let me just throw this in here.
Yes.
That I was a funeral director full time and just doing all the things, right? At 39 years old, I was 6 months away from being 40. I quit a really good, lucrative funeral service job because God called me to move to Dallas. And so I was like, God, I can't listen. This is a good job. Do you see they got benefits? I got a company car. I'm doing the thing. I had never made this kind of money being a funeral director ever. And just before I turned 40, God asked me to plant that seed, to sow that job into the cycle. And he promised, he said, listen, I'm going to send you to a place. And when you get there, I'm going to show you where you need to be. Does that sound familiar, Abraham? You just go. You just get in line, put your feet to the pavement, get moving, and when you get there, I will show you the place, right? So at 40 years old, I started a whole nother career. So if you are out there and you 40 and you like, nah, I can't do it, sis, let me tell you, bruh, let me tell you, I quit a whole job and a whole career and started all over in a new city. And God has proven himself faithful in this season because nothing went wasted. I needed everything that I went through, everything that I lost, everything that I feel like I fumbled. Every misstep was actually in step to do exactly what God had called me to do and to put me here in this season.
I love that. That's so encouraging. And I think that a lot of us are wired to have a desire for all of the details before we take the leap, before we step out of the boat, before we make the move. But we serve a God who does not specialize in giving us all the details first. There are moments where he asks you to just make the step, take the step. And he's going to show you on the way as you go, as you obey. And most of us would prefer a comfort zone.
Oh, yeah.
We would prefer the predictability of charting out our life's course and knowing everything that we'll do at 35, at 45, at 55, at 65.
Yeah.
But his ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts, they're completely different than our thoughts. So being open to the shifts, being open to what is next, and knowing that you're enough for what you know and you're enough for what you don't know.
Absolutely.
Because that you don't know does not matter because you are following the leader who knows all.
Who knows all.
And
does. And sometimes you have to grieve. You have to grieve the desire to want to know. Like that is a grief process when you have to actually let go of the control of knowing. And all of us, our human proclivity, like you said, is that we want to know. I want to know what's going to happen so that I can weigh the risk and the reward. I can make sure that I'm going to get something from this. I need to know how this is going to turn out. And so usually when we are walking by faith, we are grieving the familiar. And so you're doing both of the things at the same time. You are walking by faith, you are listening to the voice of God, and you are also letting go your human proclivity to want to know and to have control. And that is a human response. It doesn't mean that you don't have any faith or your faith is small. It's a human response because having knowledge, many of us feel, keeps us safe. And one of our primary needs as human beings is safety and security. That's the only way. It's one of the basic needs. If you've heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, at the very bottom of that pyramid is safety and security. So in order for us to develop and grow into healthy human beings and healthy adults, that safety is important. But you have to know that there is safety in God's will. There's safety in his way. He promises you safety, right? And so even when there's all these other things vying for your attention, he promises that he'll be a safe space for you.
Okay, now take me to a practical step of how to grieve the familiar. How to grieve the familiar for that person who's had the same job and they're being pulled to do something differently. For that person who's lived in the same place, but they know that they're supposed to go somewhere else. For that person whose life looked a certain way before March 2020.
Yeah.
And it has not looked like that since March 2020. And it will not look like that again because this is a new world with a new norm. What is a practical way to grieve the familiar?
Anytime we want to grieve anything, the first thing that you have to do is acknowledge the truth of the loss, right? You can't ignore it. You can't ignore that you are experiencing a life that is completely different than what you had, whether in mind or what you were actually living, especially before March of 2020. You really have to acknowledge that a loss really occurred, right? That this is not a figment of your imagination, that you're not making this up, that you're not being extra, that all of those things, it starts with you just validating that a loss actually happened. Because a grief process is actually your internal way of evaluating how important the thing was that you actually lost. So if you put no value, if you place no value on the lost thing, whatever it may be, then it's going to be very hard for you to go through a process of assessing a loss that you have not actually acknowledged. So you have to acknowledge that the loss actually happened. And sometimes it means just sitting down going, I cannot believe that this is where I am. This is bananas. This is crazy. I can't believe it. I can't believe this happened. I can't believe this is the life that I have. I just really, this is crazy. This is not what I expected. This is not what I wanted. And I need to say to you, I am so sorry. I'm sorry that things have happened that you did not expect, you did not anticipate, and that you are having such a hard time recovering from. I'm sorry that that happened to you. And what happened to you was real. What happened to you was hard. And what happened to you is actually worth grieving. So, in that, I acknowledged it, right? I acknowledged that the loss actually happened. I am assessing the actual loss that happened. And now I am validating that the loss was real. Those three things have to happen in order for you to actually begin any sort of healthy grieving process. This is what you have to go through. I have to acknowledge the loss happened. I have to assess how much I lost with this thing being gone. It could be a person, it could be a job, it could be familiarity, it could be my health. So many of us are still dealing with long term COVID concerns and issues. Whatever the loss is, you have to do an assessment of it. You have to put a valuation on it, because if you don't, it's going to be really hard for you to validate that the loss was significant enough for you to grieve.
That is so powerful. So we're going to acknowledge, assess, and validate.
Yep.
Whether that loss is physical, whether that loss is a person,
Yep.
whether that loss is an idea of what we thought our lives would look like.
Yep. Yep.
So as we finalize this year, what do you say to someone who thought that they would have this certain thing happen in 2023, and now we're in the last 3 months of the year and it's looking shaky or wavering that this change in my life is going to happen this year? um, Perhaps it was a New Year's resolution that you've had again, of losing this amount of weight, of being debt free, of having a shift in your marital status, of having a change in career, of being finished with a certain task, of
Yeah.
grasping a certain contract. Whatever that thing is,
Yeah.
that is always front of mind, that we have to work hard to really honestly not make it an idol in
Yeah.
our lives.
Okay.
Well, what is it that we can say today to encourage someone in this first week of the 10th month of 2023 to get everybody ready to know they're enough to finish this fourth quarter strong
Yeah.
and to be ready for all that 2024 will bring and mean?
That is such a great question, because by the time, especially when I'm talking to clients, by the time we get to this year, I start to feel from them this extreme heaviness. There's a heaviness there. There is a lot of disappointment there. There's a lot of fear there, because as we're ending this year, like you said, and everything that I had envisioned would happen in this year did not. Sometimes it can present to us that maybe we're a failure, or maybe we didn't do everything that we could do, or maybe you missed something. And I'm here to tell you that none of those things are true. I think sometimes when we are planning out our years and we're planning out our times, I think we forget to kind of divide those things into short term goals and long term goals. And sometimes you may have created an expectation for yourself that your capacity for the year did not allow for. So you need to consider all the things that you've had happen in this year. Usually we don't do that. We have these goals in January, and then by the time we get here, we're like, man, I didn't do any of that. But then you don't consider that you got sick 3 times, or that you buried 4 or 5 loved ones, or that you've been on eggshells and anxious because your job is restructuring and you don't know where your job is, or that you may have been having stress or strain in the relationships that are most important to you. You know, you didn't consider that there were so many other factors that was surrounding that space that may have decreased your capacity to do everything that you felt that you needed to do. And so my thing is make sure you are judging your capacity and not your capability. Because many times when we start to judge our capability, it says to us that we can't do it. But when we properly assess our capacity, we ask ourselves, do I have enough space, room, depth, and breadth to actually do the thing that I need to do? So the first thing I want to remind you, as Dr. Tara has so beautifully, you are enough to finish the task. That there are some revolving goals, goals that will take us a little bit longer to pursue and to finish. It's okay to have those goals. Then there are some short-term goals. So are you making sure that your goals are correct in terms of time frame? Okay. I'm $700,000 in debt. I make $70,000 a year, and it needs to be done by the end of the year. Okay. Now, miraculously, sure. By budgeting, though, that means that that debt is going to take a little bit more time. So why don't you ask yourself questions like, where was I a success? Before you start assessing how many failures and how many things you didn't do by the end of the year, write down how many things you did do, right? Even though I didn't get a new job, I updated my resume. I put that resume on Indeed. I went to 3 networking events and I met 3 different people. I went to a conference that I felt that I needed to go to so that I can get some more information and build my tool belt. So, yeah, I may not have quit my job, but I made 6 or 7 steps in order to get there. I was listening to a Bible study the other night by Dr. Hart Ramsey, and he says the Bible never speaks about leaps of faith, it talks about steps of faith. So while we are measuring our success in leaps, we should be measuring them in steps, because every small step, no matter how small it is a progressive space. So how much progress have you made over the year? No, you might not have lost 50 pounds, Tori, but you did keep off the 30 that you took off last year, and you didn't gain any weight. If you know anything about weight, somebody in the comments should be shouting and giving me a clap, because it's hard, right? So why don't we start with, because another human proclivity is that we always look at the negative of ourselves first and we forget to assess the positive things. Why don't you ask yourself, what things that I did do? Assess my accomplishments. The second thing you can do is acknowledge that, big up, celebrate them. How much celebration have you done this year over the things that you've done well and the things that you finished? Celebrate that. And then validate, right? Because it's the same steps. Validate the fact that though I did not complete everything, these are the things that I did complete, and it is just another step in the direction of me fulfilling and completing a goal. You
I
are
love that.
Yeah, you're enough to do that.
I
And your
love
life
that.
is not over. We start over so many times. And I think the thing about it is that we think that our lives is on some big continuum, but it's really not. We really start over all the time. Every morning you wake up is a new start. Every time you read a new book, every time you do something, you start over every single day. And it is never too late to start over. I have a coaching program, and I'm yourstartingovercoach.com. And that is a 6-week intensive where we give you a manual on actually how you start over. That starting over is not a bad thing, that sometimes there are some necessary endings that you need to have so you can have some fruitful beginnings. And oftentimes we miss out on fruitful beginnings because we are so afraid to let go of what was so that we can walk into what is and we can see what will be.
Ooh, I love this. Listen, all right. First of all, I want to do a moment of applause because we are going to celebrate what did happen this year. Listen,
yes, that's right.
You did that.
Listen, put it in the comments, and I want to see in these comments.
Yes.
Tell us some of your accomplishments. Put it in the comments. Let me and Dr. Tara know how many things you've done this year, and how many things and how many ways you've seen God show up in your life, and how many times he's come through for you. And just when you thought your back was against a wall, it was actually against a rock, and that rock was solid, and that he was doing something for you. Go ahead and put that in the comments, because you need to know. Listen, there was a reason why God had instructed Joshua to tell the children of Israel to get those stones out of the Jordan. It's because they have forgot the miracles before. And some of us, we need to have a Holy Ghost Rolodex. You need to have a miracle Rolodex that you keep in your back pocket, that you keep in your mind. And every time the enemy tries to tell you that you're not doing enough or that you're not enough, you need to go in your Rolodex. Listen, if you're not old enough to know what a Rolodex is, it's the little thing we used to put cards in, and they used to be alphabetical, and we will write somebody's name and address and phone number, and we will put down the reason why we had this connection with somebody. And some of you have lost your memory, and you need to go back. You need to go back in the files. You need to go back in your folder, and you need to pull out some of those accomplishments so you can remind yourself that, baby, listen, I got some accomplishments that I should be happy for this year. God did some things. He made some ways. He opened some doors. He shut some doors. He made some connections. He caused some disconnections. All of that is a blessing, and you need to write that stuff down. This is why you need to journal.
I love it. I see Janine says she lost over 50 pounds this year. I love seeing these accomplishments. Listen, as we celebrate, you activate your enoughness, because you know if you were enough to do that, then you're enough to do this. You're enough for now, and you're enough for your next. I love seeing these accomplishments.
Yes.
Shout out to my husband, Charles Jenkins. He says that I have accomplished another book. Mirror. That is my affirmation journal for you. We plan what we're going to eat. We plan what classes we're going to take. We plan our schedules, what meetings we're going to take. But we also need to plan what we say to ourselves, because what you say to yourself matters. What you say about yourself matters. What you answer to matters. And it's all connected to exactly what you said. Congratulations to all of you who are putting your accomplishments in there. I see Sister Bonnie, who is a prayer warrior. She put her luncheon together with 300 women in attendance for 3 months. I want to shout out my daughter, Princess Jenkins. She had a God idea to do an empowerment event for young girls, the Glam Jam. She had the God idea while she was away studying abroad in Italy, came back, and the same week that she got back, she was running full speed ahead.
Oh, so God is speaking over in Italy? Let me get my ticket, because I need a God idea. He giving away over in Italy? Okay. Listen, that's all the confirmation I needed right there.
Yes. I'm so excited about all of these accomplishments. And as we share our accomplishments with each other, it helps us encourage each other in our enoughness to know that, yes, you can do it too. You can do the event. You can do the idea. You don't have to have the long notice that you think, because, you know, we can all get stuck in the paralysis of analysis and thinking that we have to have it all together. Everything has to be perfect before we start. But we are talking to your starting over coach right now.
Yes.
And she's going to help us start over. I want to show our viewers what you have going on with your starting over journey. So your starting over coach, I want you all to pay attention to the screen.
do me a favor. I want you to take a minute and I want you to think about how many times you've actually started over in your life. Listen, think about how many times those start overs landed you right back where you started. Tell me how you felt in those moments when you realized that a new start just looked like an old beginning. Hi, my name is Tori, and I'm a licensed therapist, and I'm your starting over coach. I'm here to ensure that you will never have another false start again in your life, and here's how we'll do it. I'm going to provide you a play-by-play coaching intensive that will give you the confidence, the skills, and the plan that you will need to start over and to finish well. For 90 minutes for 6 weeks, we will meet together in a small virtual intimate group right here on the coach's couch. Listen, we are going to develop strategies that will help you to turn your next start into your next success. We'll start by creating a really safe space for you to grieve those necessary endings, to clear your heart and to clear your mind, and prepare the way for you to plant the seed to start the life that you've been praying about. What I know for certain is that none of us starts with the idea that we are not going to finish. And so this time, when you start, you will be embarking on your next right now. We are going to provide you the opportunity to grow into and to have the life that God has intended for you to have. All you need now is how to start over and to start over well. Listen, the space on the couch is limited, so don't you wait until the last minute. You need to go ahead and sign up right now. Listen, I know you might be afraid, but don't be afraid to start over. This time, you will not be starting from scratch. You'll be starting from experience. Come with me.
I am so excited for everyone who is ready to start over.
Yeah.
If you're starting over in the fourth quarter, if you're getting ready to start over in the new year, I want to shout out another person that we're congratulating and appreciating what has happened this year. Becky came through a sudden illness. And she recovered this summer. She's strong, back with a renewed life. Listen, I want to encourage someone who's had a physical challenge because we are enough. We've been made and created to heal in such a way that when your health is restored, you can be better than new. Because some may feel like I'll never get back to a certain strength. There are some moments that the restoration happens in such a way that you have another level of appreciation for your health in a way that you're doing more after you come out of that physical challenge than you ever would have even attempted before. And so you're enough for that physical challenge, that health challenge, that diagnosis. You have something in you that can fight, that can win. And it may take strategy. It may take doctors. It may take changing some habits. It might take changing some things that you take in. And we're not just waiting for a magical moment and not doing the work as well.
You're right.
So we are participators in our purpose. I'm so excited about this time. I am Dr. Tar, your Chief Encouragement Officer, and I believe that you are enough. I want to tell you a few resources that I have, and I want to encourage you to follow Tori as well. And so I wrote a book called Enoughness, and it is the journey to discovering who you already are. And it takes you through 6 stages to let you discover you already have everything within you that you need to do what you were called, created, and created to do. And then we have our affirmation planner to plan what you're going to say to yourself because of what you say to yourself matters. What you say to yourself is either an echo of God's word or is an amplification of Satan's lies about you.
Ooh, child.
Choose the vocabulary. It's a vocabulary test. You choose the vocabulary of what you will do. And then we have Tori with us today on our Enough Conversations. I mean, everything you said could be its own session. And so there's such a well of wisdom and depth in every word that you've spoken. I want to go back and listen to this conversation again because I want to take notes of every step you said, every word you said. You have so many quotables that I'm like, wait, pause. I need that again. Run that back. Everything you said was so powerful. I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you.
And I love that you are our starting over coach, your starting over coach. Would you like to say anything in closing for our Enough Conversations? I'm so grateful that you've been a part of this conversation. I know I've been blessed. I know somebody who's listening, watching, has been transformed in their perspective just from your words.
Thank
Can
you.
you close this out and tell us?
I just want to say thank you so much again, Dr. Tara, for having me. I am just so full and just so blessed to be able to sit with your viewing audience. And just let me remind you that Dr. Tara said it, everything that you are supposed to be, you already are. You have been created to be the best that God has to offer. You are the best that God has to offer. I want to remind you to be you, to stay in your lane, to show up as authentically as you can. Whatever you have to show up with that, because that is enough. And if you feel like you need more for the journey, I'm going to tell you that God is a wealth, a well of everything that you need. There is nothing missing in the hands of the potter. He gives us everything we need, from doctors to therapists. Sometimes we may need to sit with a therapist so that we can make sure that what's happening in our emotional space, that is impacting our mental space and it's impacting our bodies and the way that all of it functions, that we align all of those things together so that we can be the fullest expression of everything that God has called us to be. Again, I am yourstartingovercoach.com. Sign up and let's do this thing together. I am so happy to be here. And I am so thankful for you, Dr. Tara. And I can't wait to hug your neck so we can do this again.
Absolutely. Thank you for being a part of the day. You all, let me know that you enjoyed Live at 5. This is a series. This is not one and done. We are going to continue our conversations. You need to know that you're enough. You were born enough, created enough. You have everything in you that you need to start over and start over again and start over again. There is something special and specific that you were designed to do, that you were created to do. And the Creator has not changed his mind about you, no matter how long you put it off, no matter how long you've tried to talk yourself out of that. Yes, today is the day where you say, I'm going full speed ahead. I'm saying yes, and I'm about to do everything that I know that I have within me to do because I am enough. You are enough. We are enough. I can't wait to see you on the next Live at 5. Tell somebody that you know and love that they want to make sure that they're a part of our next Enough Conversation. Thank you, Tori.
Thank you, Dr. T.
Shout out to Graceful
Journey Counseling.
Yes, Graceful Journey Counseling. And remember, this is Your Starting Over Coach. So go to yourstartingovercoach.com.
Yeah.
See you all soon.